There are challenges with our young people. And that's why I'm delighted the African Development Bank, we have a program that we've launched here together with Agence Française de Développement and other partners of $614 million. That's called iDice. I just kind of rolled the dice, which is initiative for the development of creative enterprises, digital economy. That program alone, because Nigerian young people are very, very smart. Look at what we're doing in the fintech industry. That program will allow us to support so many small and medium-sized enterprises in the digital economy and the creative industry. And it will create over 6 million jobs directly in Nigeria. It will also add $6.4 billion to the economy of Nigeria. So when you were talking about how to deal with some of those things, you've got to create jobs in rural areas. You've got to create jobs in the urban areas. You've got to get young people supported. And talking of young people, some of the smartest people you find in the world are the young people of Africa. But we got 477 million of them below the age of 35. There's no financial markets for them. How do you do that? And so all of a sudden we have African young people going on rickety boats to Europe and all that. It makes me ashamed as president of the African Development Bank. And I told our staff at the bank, no, there's no honor and decency in that, because we have missing institutions and market failure. How do you have 477 million young people with no financial systems around them? And you're asking me the question that they're not going to be migrating? Of course they will migrate. And that is why we actually went on and developed, and are implementing now, rolling out, I must say, what's called youth entrepreneurship investment banks. They are new financial institutions whose job is just to support the businesses and the ventures of young people, create what I call youth-based wealth. I was in Rome just recently for the Italy-Africa Summit, and I was with Prime Minister Meloni of Italy. And we were talking, and I said, well, Madam Prime Minister, the issue of migration out of Africa, the young people of Africa, they are not your responsibility. They are our responsibility. Because I don't believe the future of Africa is utilized in Europe. It doesn't lie in the United States. It doesn't lie in Canada. It doesn't lie anywhere. I'm not against people moving, so labor markets are kind of fluid. But this continent must be able to grow significantly at double digit, able to create quality jobs and retain its topmost minds on this continent. That's what we have to do. And so we cannot have a situation, I guess, where a demographic asset that we have suddenly becomes a global externality, negative externality. No, there's no pride there. And so I think that in Nigeria, continuing to support the young people with businesses to thrive is very, very important. And last, of course, is infrastructure. Got to get energy systems working. It beats me that we actually don't. When I look, sometimes say 4,800 megawatts, 5,000 megawatts of electricity. That's nothing. For a population of 208 million people, we should be talking of 90 to 100,000 megawatts of power out of Nigeria, because that will spoil. Nigerians are very creative people. They work very, very hard. You just look at Lagos. People wake up at 2, 3 a.m. to work, vulcanizers, and everybody's trying to make a living. But all we got to do is provide them power. So that, I think, will attack some of the structural issues of high cost of production of everything that we have that makes us more competitive. And last thing I would say is this. Part of this can, as far as I am concerned, and as a concerned Nigerian, it's the approach that we're taking to earning forex. You see, if you have a funnel like this, and this is the base of your funnel, I think what we're doing is squeezing this part of the funnel, hoping that something's going to squeeze out of it. It's a redistributive model. It's not a growth model. And what we've got to change is to change the mindset. You need more entering that funnel at the top. And the way to do that is to have an outward bound, export-oriented industrial
non-oil exports.
Industrial manufacturing stance.
Yes.
Because that means that you got to build integrated platforms on which, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's food and ag, whether it's digital services, whatever those areas, the verticals are, that makes us a global players. I salute what Aliko Dangote is doing. That's the kind of thing we've got to really do. And take a look at, for goodness sake, take a look at South Korea. 2 years ago, South Korea's export was more than $230 billion. They're doing equipment, they're doing all manner of value-added activities. And how much are we earning in terms of Forex? Nothing, peanuts. And so we've got to really move, in my view, away from one where we are just sharing very little amount of resources that can only lead to immerization of poverty, to an expansive model that you grow wealth by growing out. You don't win soccer by playing defense. You need some defense, but you win by playing offense. The rest of the world is for us to take on. So building the right capacity of people, building the right kind of infrastructure, building solid financial institutions that have the financial muscle to do that. And by the way, I'm here, and that's why I'm totally devastated by the loss of Herbert Wigwe. I was at the event yesterday. It's a very devastating loss. Those are the kind of people that have the vision, the drive, the commitment, and a sense of passion and nationalism to make us into who we're supposed to be. And that's myself, like several others. And so I think we have a generation now that have no choice but to do all we can to redeem our image, to make sure that we become not a nation that manages poverty, but one that grows wealth and that's globally competitive and respected.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, Dr. Adesina, you've taken us through quite a journey there, talking about Nigeria, what we need to do, and the need to really focus on growth and productivity. You're in the final lap as we end this interview. You're in the final lap of your second 5-year term. I think you have just about a year or less.
I think, yeah.
And I'm really glad you mentioned our young people, because we want legacies and leadership that posterity will be grateful for. And I'm glad you also mentioned the late, great Herbert Wigwe, who obviously left a lasting impact and legacy.
And may so rest in peace. Incredible man.
Indeed. Looking back on your journey and looking forward to the future of the Africa Development Bank and Africa, perhaps taking your high fives as the prism through which you assess your own leadership and achievements, what would you be most proud of looking back on that journey? And what is the legacy that you're leaving for future generations of young Africans, having led this great institution to this point?
Well, what I would say that I'll be most pleased with was that I was able to work with, of course, the board of the bank to build a world-class financial institution today. African Development Bank was ranked a year ago as the best multilateral financial institution in the world. It was also ranked as the most transparent financial institution in the world. That's an African institution. I'm most proud of that because it changes the narrative a lot. Second, I'll be most proud of the fact that myself and my staff and the board, we work relentlessly to advance Africa's interests, to make sure that the perception of Africa is changed from that's needing some handouts to one in which it's an investment destination whose assets have to be harnessed